in response to the city's decision not to renew the police chief's contract last week.
I understand contracts, and I understand at-will employees. It's the way that it was done.
That's because, according to Gazapur, even though he knew his contract was coming to an end, he says he and Jones had discussed a potential extension. Gazapur says he later received an email from Jones notifying him that the city was opting for a change of direction. Now the community, including Vice Mayor Susana Reyes, are asking Jones to come forward with an explanation as to why the sudden change of direction. A direction that some are alleging was influenced by Mayor Olivia Calderon.
The council members didn't vote on this. This was between Olivia and Jeff Jones, city manager and the mayor.
Vice Mayor Reyes told 23ABC that she was not informed about the city's decision by Jones and learned about what happened through a resident. 23ABC attempted to speak to Jones, who preferred not to comment. Gazapur's finals day with the department was Thursday. In a statement to 23ABC, he says in part, "For me, this was never about the title I held. It was always about the impact I could make, the lives we could touch, the streets we could make safer, and the future we could build for the next generation of Arvin residents." End quote. Now, former Sergeant Joseph Huggett is stepping in as acting police chief.
23ABC reached out to Mayor Calderon for comment, but did not hear back by news time. For 23ABC, I'm Priscilla Lara, your neighborhood reporter.
Power outages, oil, and artificial intelligence. Those were among the topics discussed when California State Assemblyman Stan Ellis spoke to business owners at the Kernville Chamber of Commerce meeting. Ellis of the 32nd District mostly took questions from those in attendance at the luncheon. He told 23ABC he expected questions about recent public safety power shutoffs by Southern California Edison.
There's been a lot of controversy over that because of the powers and the notifications. They are stepping up, and they're working hard to make sure the constituents are getting their questions answered. However, as our assembly office, if you feel like you're not getting any help, you need to please call us so we can reach out as well. We want to help you.
The phone number for the district office in Bakersfield is 661-395-2995.
And now we switch things over to weather, where unfortunately I do not have as good of news as I had last week. This time last week we were watching temperatures begin to drop very, very quickly. The opposite is true today. Not a huge warm-up, but we are running warmer than yesterday. 94 degrees, so we're no longer in the lower 90s. We were in the lower 90s actually for a full week here in Bakersfield. But we're starting to get a little bit back to normal here. As we head through the night tonight, it's going to take a little longer to cool us off too. Still in the 90s as the sun is going down. By the time the sun is fully set, 10 p.m., actually that's about an hour after, we're not down until 85 yet. So a little bit warmer overnight, a little bit warmer into the daytime. High tomorrow, close to average for this time of year. We're back in the upper 90s. Unfortunately, that's going to stay with us for quite some time. We'll look at that later in the show. We'll also look at some heat affecting other parts of the nation in your full forecast.
There is criticism from some European leaders about this trade deal between the United States and the European Union, but the president is touting it as a big deal, even if there are still some questions about the impact on American consumers.
President Trump in Scotland this morning talking trade alongside the British Prime Minister. The president says China is tough to negotiate with, saying we're going to see what happens. With days to go until the August 1st deadline for President Trump's tariffs to kick in,
we're making deals that are good for us.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Sweden today for trade negotiations with China, the world's second biggest economy. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney today says his country's negotiations with the U.S. are at a critical stage.
The negotiations are at a intense phase. It's a complex negotiation.
On Sunday, the U.S. and the European Union agreeing on a 15% tariff covering most goods from the EU's 27 member countries.
It's the biggest deal, I think, in history, not just trade deal.
European leaders today blasting that deal. Spain's prime minister says he supports the trade agreement, but without any enthusiasm. German Chancellor Merz says his country's economy will suffer considerable damage as a result of the tariffs. And the Hungarian prime minister says President Trump ate Ursula von der Leyen for breakfast.
15% is not to be underestimated, but it is the best we could get.
The tariffs will cover cars and pharmaceuticals, one of the EU's biggest exports to the U.S. The 15% tariff down from the 30% tariff the president threatened. But it's still not clear what it means for popular European wine.
15% on top of another 14/15% on the dollar exchange rate makes 30. And this is already pretty bad.
President Trump says the European Union will also buy $750 billion in energy goods from the United States over the next 3 years, as well as a large amount of military equipment. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
California once again is pushing back against the Trump administration, this time over food assistance and privacy rights. I'm Shantae Amani, your Bakersfield neighborhood reporter.
We're suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture for demanding that we turn over deeply personal data about every single applicant and recipient of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, in our state, and for threatening to withhold funding unless we comply.
Bonta says the USDA, under Trump's request, is demanding names, social security numbers, and home addresses even for people who've applied years ago, calling it a violation of public trust. More than 5 million Californians rely on SNAP. In Kern County, more than 200,000 people depend on the program, nearly half of Bakersfield's population. The County Department of Human Services says they haven't shared any data and will follow state guidance moving forward. We reached out to Governor Gavin Newsom's office and the USDA, but have not yet received a response.
And California won't comply. Instead, we're taking Trump to court yet again.
As of right now, it is unknown the full impact, but we'll continue to update you on this lawsuit. I'm Shantae Amani reporting in Bakersfield.
People who actually understand the bill well are, for the most part, very grateful because there was a lot of provisions in there that actually have a huge impact for the Central Valley.
23 ABC spoke to Congressman David Valido by Zoom last week about the ongoing protests. Valido pointed out what he calls the overwhelming positives from the bill, including the extension of the tax cuts for low-income residents in the Valley. As for the accusations of cutting Medicaid for the most vulnerable of his district, he said it's not true, and the changes in the bill are not unreasonable.
For those who have the ability to work, we're asking that they work, go to school, or volunteer. Now, as far as the undocumented population, that was kind of thrown out there a lot, but it's always been against the law to provide services for Medicaid or use Medicaid dollars to pay for health care. And I know that was a talking point on my side of the aisle, but there really is nothing. I mean, obviously the state of California can do what they want, but under federal law, we've never been able to fund Medicaid for people who are here illegally.
Valido says he's been working hard on the Dignity Act, a bipartisan piece of legislation that he said will offer a 7-year temporary legal status for undocumented immigrants who've been in the U.S. for 5 years or more and can meet certain other requirements. As for the 22nd District, Democrats already have 2 candidates to challenge Valido in 2026, Dr. Jasmeet Bains and Randy Villegas. Valido returns to the Central Valley this week as part of the August recess.
A nonprofit organization is inviting community members out to apply for their scholarship grants to prepare residents for college. I'm J. Docker, your Bakersville neighborhood reporter. I'll introduce you to that organization and show you how to apply. A nonprofit organization is encouraging young men in the community to reach for their goals. I'm J. Docker, your Bakersville neighborhood reporter. The Community Empowerment Organization is hosting a scholarship dinner to promote higher education.
This is the first time the organization is offering this scholarship to the community, hoping to encourage the youth to follow their dreams and shoot for the stars.
We're looking to give out at least $10,000 to $15,000 of scholarship money, and this is all going to be based on their GPAs, their letters of recommendation, their official high school transcripts. But also they have been challenged to do a 2-page essay on resilience.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2024, 55.4% of high school graduate men enrolled in college, compared to 69.5% of women.
When I reflect on my childhood, college wasn't in the plans. It wasn't something that was preached or promoted. We were happy to finish high school, and I think we want to change that narrative. We don't want our young men to just settle for high school diplomas. We want them to aspire to be, professionals, have long-term careers.
Final day to submit your application will be August 1st, and the dinner will be held on August 16th. For 23 ABC, I'm RJ Dockery, your Bakersville neighborhood reporter.
We're tracking some warmer weather here in Kern County this week, and it is not difficult to see why. Massive area of high pressure built in across really the central and southern United States, but that's large enough that it's already influencing our weather here in Kern County. The worst of that, though, as is the case, or was the case rather, last week, well to our east. Heat alerts in effect across huge portions of the United States, including extreme heat warnings in areas shaded in pink. We had heat index values over the weekend in Florida of 120 degrees. So some incredibly hot weather there. We're just shifting back to kind of normal summer weather here in Kern County. Overnight tonight, mainly 60s and 70s with a couple of mountain areas falling down into the 50s. So again, a little bit more typical for this time of year. We're not getting those really cool overnights that we enjoyed last week. And yes, some triple digits back in the forecast, especially over in the desert, up to about 105 for places like Ridgecrest and China Lake. Here in Bakersfield, I think we're staying in the double digits, but definitely warm, 97. I've got 84 in Tehachapi, 93 at Lake Isabella. Still a little bit of breeze over in eastern Kern, but in general, not quite as windy as it was last week. In general, just not quite as nice as it was last week either. Let's get into the extended forecast here. Tomorrow by lunchtime, we're close to 90. Over the weekend, our noon temperatures were closer to 80 degrees. So definitely a little change in the forecast, getting back to typical summer heat. 96 Wednesday, 97 Thursday. Warmest day looks to be Friday. That'll take us pretty close to the triple digits. Would not be surprised if we got there. But in general, just a much warmer 7-day forecast than what we were looking at this time last week. Not quite as bad in the mountains or the Kern River Valley. Low to mid 90s, not too bad up in the KRV. Mountain areas looking at low to mid 80s. Again, that's relatively comfortable still. And for the desert, it's going to be pretty hot. Temperatures near 100 with even hotter temperatures closer to 105 for the Indian Wells Valley.